All right, 6:03, we'll start the April 25th regular meeting of the Kennedale Economic Development Corporation. Roll call, everybody is present. All right, Item 2, start the work session, April 25th regular meeting. One, local government code chapter 380-381 submissions to public database.
I want to ask for Rayanne to fill us in on what we got. She's a little bit more familiar with it.
About 2 weeks ago, I received an email stating that in, I believe it's September of 21, there was something enacted where anytime we have an agreement, a 380 and 381 agreement, the state has created a database and the information has to be put into the database. Now, looking at what we have, I believe there's 5 agreements that I found. Or is it 4? It may be 4. Okay, 4. That I found in there that I've gained access to how we put them in. And I just wanted to be sure that we weren't missing any when I go to put those 4 in for the committee. Yes. Where's my notes? Thank you, sir. We have H&O Dye, H2O Supply, Harmali Holdings, and Watson Glass.
I don't know of any other ones.
It's agreements that we have with local businesses in reference to basically tax abatements. Agreements that it's with the city. The laws are, legislative is putting laws in where we need to basically put it on a database for anyone to come in and see the agreements. With some of the turnover we have had and some of the documentations that we may or may not have, we wanted to bring it to the board, one, to let you know that we're having to do this. Second, if there's anyone that we may be missing, we have not been able to come up with any others than that. Probably the biggest one is dealing with the town center. We have that, but it's not necessarily a 380 agreement. And I didn't know if one of you may know of some type of agreement we had for any tax purposes.
Was there not an abatement or a 380 agreement for E-tron?
Not that we've been able to see.
Okay.
Did you see one for them? Right.
Thought when I thought when I wasn't on the EDC when that came through, but I thought when council looked at that, I do believe that there was some sort of 380 agreement that we had with them. Or it was talked about. I'm not exactly sure if it was passed or not.
Where are they located?
In town center. Okay.
Okay. Item 2, recommendation of an application process for our new business grants. Did we pull up the old ones and modify the original ones? Or the original ones lost?
I have not been able to find an application for a grant opportunity. Now you had the 380 agreement, which is similar, but it's
Well, the EDC grant would be through the EDC only, but approved through the city council. And the 380 is basically a tax that has to be 100% approved by the city council. The grant stuff we have, there was forms for it. There's no telling where they've gone to, and they were capped at a max and a percentage. And that's something we probably need to discuss if we need to change our max or we need to change our percentage the matching amounts.
do you know where that's at by chance?
I don't have a copy of it. I know somebody that might still have a copy of it if he didn't burn everything.
Let me see if we can actually have it documented somewhere with that. I have not been able to
Without
locate.
going to the previous president,
Well, if,
he might have stuff.
if we don't have it, we can create a new one.
Okay,
Uh,
it would probably be better to create a new
What-
one and then make sure that it is
Business grant.
up to date legal wise.
Right, exactly. And that's basically why we have it on here. I have not been able to locate an agreement, other than the 380s,
Right.
obviously, but, to
There's no,
indicate-
we had none. All the grants were finished up during or around the Bob Hart administration time. There was nothing as far as the EDC grants were all finished by that time. And most of them were improvements for like the facade of a building to make it look more presentable. And that's what a lot of it went, except there were some that were others than that. But the last ones were for that. And it wasn't for signage. It was basically if we got a building that's
Building
really
improvement.
substandard and we really want it cleaned up and the people are interested in spending money, then we would kick in a little bit.
Excuse me, could you bring some of us who aren't aware of these business grants up to speed on what these business grants are in relation to and what they were for?
Well, it was part of the original deal of the EDC. It was one, so that if you have a business in Kennedale that you want it to, there's lots that you can apply for whatever, it has to be approved by us. And then since it's a contract, it'll have to be a final approval through the city council. But we would say you would bring in, for example, you want a new parking lot in front of your building
Mhm.
to make it look better and more presentable to bring more people in. Your parking lot's gonna cost 200,000. We would grant you a percentage back up to a maximum, let's say a 20% back up to a maximum of 25,000.
Okay,
And you would only get this money when the job, when it's completed, when the contractors have been paid off, and you submit all this paperwork back to the director, and then he would approve it, and then that a check would get cut back to you.
okay, now, Mark,
That is basically how a lot of it went.
okay, so
And as
are
far as,
these,
there was one company, Watson Glass, that actually got he actually got a grant for new equipment.
Mhm.
And that's even before I started.
So is any of this information on the city website as far
It
as?
will, it's not on the city website.
So how would the
Used to- it
business
used to be
know?
Public knowledge, but a lot of things have gone and went, and we have to start over again
Okay,
and keep going forward.
okay. Now, Mark, could you do us a favor? You and Daryl, if you guys have any new information that some of us who are new to this process aren't aware of, but you preface like some of this stuff, give us information on that before we start discussing it, so that we'll
We're
have an
gonna
idea.
have to- there's basically no information that Daryl can find right now.
that's the reason why it's on the agenda.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, okay,
I don't have any information to go by.
We
okay,
can,
I've been on 5 years. It was prior to me.
okay, okay.
I will tell you, the previous city manager had a disdain, he did not want to hear about it, did not care about it, did not want to do anything about it.
I think more to the question here is more just explanation of what is 380, 381, just to give
Well,
us
that-
some
that's-
insight into what you're discussing. And then the same thing for the business grant, not so much, is there one outstanding? What is exactly a grant or the 380? Thank you for updating us now, but just going forward, if it's a specific code like that or a filing.
Is basically a payback off your taxes, on your taxes. City only taxes. Say if your city only taxes is X number percentage, you have a 380 agreement, then those taxes are kept by you for finance. Like, let's say McDonald's, They had a big 380 agreement. That's the other one, but that was not with the EDC that I know of. But that's long been done because it was capped at a certain max and they made that quick. But let's say McDonald's got a percent back off of every hamburger they sold off the city's sales tax to pay for their initial investment of building McDonald's.
And these mature after a period of time, or they
Well,
hit a
there's gonna be
cap?
a cap on it.
Okay,
Let's say you have it for $250,000. Once you hit that $250,000, then you're done.
I can give you an example that I'm familiar with at this point. So for the last 6 months, we have talked about the hotel, True Hotel. So there isn't a 380 agreement with Al Carmali, the developer for that hotel. There is a 380 agreement with him, with his business. With that agreement, basically, there's a split of 66% and 34% for the hotel occupancy tax. So that 66% of that tax will be going back to Carmali's holdings or the hotel, True Hotel. And it's just an incentive for them to come to build and become a partner with the city as a whole. That agreement's for a 15-year period. After the 15 years is up, 100% of that hot tax or hotel tax will come back to the city. There's no cap.
So it's like a rebate essentially. It could be dollar wise or it can be set in a numerical number of time. So it's essentially a rebate to build here and open your business here. And for a certain amount of time or for a certain amount of money, a portion of their tax base goes back to them. And instead of it all coming to the city or the state.
Most of it's just a tax abatement is what it is. It's just an incentive for them to come and build. The grant process that I'm talking about is more local. It's all EDC, the city driven. It's not state or federal funds or anything like that. I just haven't been able to locate any documentation of any rules, regulations, or anything that gives the power, the EDC to want to apply for it. I haven't seen an application or anything associated with it. So I was bringing it to you guys. I don't know if y'all have seen it in the past. Or
None of
what
these board members have ever seen it. I'm the only one that's ever seen it.
Okay.
Only one ever voted for anybody on it for one, but and as far as I know, it was.
Was there any laws or regulations or policies y'all put in place for an applicant to follow?
There
Any
was
restrictions?
that we need to, I don't know where they are long gone. That's what I'm saying. I think we're just going to have to, if we want to do this, is start and there may be another city has already had one that we can do a blueprint off of, but nothing else. We may just have to pay some attorney fees and who have probably already drawn these up before. And they may have one that we can tailor to our needs.
We can do that. I was just making sure I didn't want to overlook something that was something
I
in
don't have
place.
anything like that. No, they don't. They're just city. They're just us. They're basically between this board, the city council, and the business owner. The business owner, all they have to have is a business that we approve for a project that we approve for here. And actually, unless we change something, if let's say they remodel their business, makes it look good. As far as I know, there was nothing that they couldn't sell it 6 months later after they got their money back. But we can put that in there. Just like you get X number of dollars back once you've approved this one, 6 months afterwards. Or whatever time limit you want.
I would suggest reaching out to like Forest
So
Hill.
there was one, James, that did take advantage of the grant and went poof.
Yes. So I would suggest reaching out to Mansfield, Arlington, Forest Hill, seeing what their EDCs have on file and trying to take what all the good stuff from that and putting it into like a new contract and having to spend some attorney's fees and to get one drawn up, because if there's not one currently out there that we know of, I think that we need to get one drawn up so that if a company does come here or a business does come here, like a small mom and pop, and they want something like that, we would be able to offer it to them.
I'm a step ahead of you. Already got it.
I'm gonna suggest we take up for the archive. Because I mean, this hypothetical, if I were to come in here and say, oh, I had this agreement. Nobody on this board, not even you, Mark, anything about it. They're actually, it is supposed to be kept. Right. Because it's supposed to be kept. Where it's kept, who knows?
It's possible that it's in the paper files and hasn't made it into the electronic files yet. And that's what I wrote down to make sure and check all that.
With that said, I do have some samples for Mansfield, Alvarado. Auckland City, which, all three of them have some strong points for all of them. I think Mansfield is one that goes in more detail. But one of the things that I think is in common or common between them all is they can apply for it. Obviously, if they're approved through the EDC and to the council, they have to do the work first. Once the work is completed, then they can submit receipts or whatever the documentation of whatever that amount that was approved to move forward. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have any policy that was showing what the process is. I just haven't been able to see that process. But if I need to go and create that process, I don't have a problem with it. I just didn't want to go out and do all the work, then all of a sudden it shows up. And there's nothing wrong either way. We can still make adjustments. We need to update it anyway. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something on my side.
And it's been so long with inflation, if it was capped at 20,000, if it was capped previously at 20,000, it may need to bump up to 25 or something a little bit more substantial to make it, if somebody's putting it, and we're only paying a small percentage back. It's not 50%, it probably will be somewhere in the 20s. With something we'd have to look into and see what
What are you talking about paying back?
we wouldn't pay them if they say they invested 200,000 and we're only going to give them a maximum of 25,000 or 20% of what they spend, something like
Okay.
that.
I got you.
Once we have a completed that their contract, you also got to make sure the contractors have been paid.
Yeah. Well, once again, one of the three is that they complete the work. And they have to provide the receipts to us indicating the work has been completed. We did put into our budget for $25,000 for a grant process. We do have one, Carmen's food truck. He is trying to put a restaurant in there at PNP Mart. You know where I'm talking about. So he's doing some renovations to that building. So obviously he has an interest in being able to receive any grant money to help. The building does need quite a bit of help. And I think that's something we need to support him and being able to bring that restaurant here, that we can pull our taxes, sales tax, things of that nature, making improvements to a structure that ultimately needs it and have a better facade in the front side of it. So that was started the process. He's had an interest in for a while. I just have not been able to find any documentation that I can physically see and start the process.
But that will also be leased property. Correct?
Yes.
So we'd have to make sure that the legal technical law attorneys on that too, because I do not ever remember a grant going to a leased property. maybe if it's for equipment, but not for facade, if that was for the, it would almost, to me, it almost maybe the person that owns the property
Apply.
should be on this too, because he's ultimately responsible for whatever contractor does anything over there.
Yeah, there's something that seems missing to me as well. I mean, I agree with the fact of, making sure the work's complete, making sure that the contractors and everything have all been paid. When they submitted it, they need, a list of who their contractors are, so we make sure we get all those contractors. But there should be some sort of a verification as well that the work was complete, You just bring in a bunch of papers and receipts and all kinds of other things.
Well, that's the person who is going for the grant. I'm sure there's some legal way, have it notarized that he got this contract got paid. Yes, he has to spend money, but he's getting money back. There ought to be we'll figure out something that will be correct.
I mean, that's generally done through permitting and inspection.
Yeah, so, just bring the final inspection report, for like the occupancy permit or something.
The
of that.
contractor could supply a release of lien concerning whether he would pay, it was paid.
Yeah, there'll be a process that they'll come and be documented that the work is done. The CO, just the permits and as general, doing any upgrades, updates, construction as a whole will have to be permitted.
Yeah, the biggest reason why I push for that, I spent a lot of time doing contracts with the federal government. And frankly, there's been many times when their receipts were given and everything else, and if there was no verification that anything was ever done, sometimes that's a problem. I'll just put it that way.
I don't believe this board nor the city council board will let that ever happen again. If there is any issues.
All right, we got that one working on it. And discussion on replacing the Veterans Memorial Fountain in the town center park. So I guess the last time that group of veterans came out here and worked on it, it's now falling apart again.
It's pretty close to it. We have been trying to get the fountain up to par where it's not leaking, looks presentable. And I'm not sure how long it's been. It's 2010-ish when it was built. The fountain itself, it has crack. It's not the grout. Is that a good way? It's a grout.
Ken. Dias.
Thank you for helping me with it.
Councilmember Kenneth Michaels at 117 Colette Sublette Road. To answer your question, in the past, every time that we've tried to Band-Aid it, I guess you can say, there's been everything used from pulling the old grout out, putting silicone in, taking what is the stuff that they put on for the boat commercial, you can drive a boat across.
Oh, Flex Seal?
Flex Seal?
There was Flex Seal used on it. Last year was probably the last one that I seen. We had 2 spots that was leaking last year after we came in and pulled all the silicone out and regrouted everything. The next
Proper
step-
way on top of that. It was done correctly.
It was done correctly. This past week, we put water in it and you can actually see the water spraying out from the cracks. So what I'm thinking is, and this is just a theory, is when they built this fountain, they probably didn't pour any type of piers to support it. And about 7 inches is clay, solid clay. So with the clay drying and then adding moisture, I'm thinking it's just moving back and forth and it broke all that grout out. So now the water's spraying out.
I mean, you might be able to put like some type of a liner or something like that in it that's actually, looks like a swimming pool.
That was something that should have been done when they installed it, was actually put a liner in it, but they never did. The research that I've done on it, we talked about actually hitting it with gunite. But if the foundation's not stable, that gunite's just gonna crack. So, and I think it's, since it's marble, Italian marble, the gunite might not even stick to it because it's a smooth surface.
Now for the main question, have you got bids on what this might take to fix this? Are we gonna use a swimming pool company, or is there actually companies that specialize in doing fountains correctly?
The idea, one, is to bring it to you, get your thoughts on it. Ultimately would like to refurbish the whole Veterans Park as a whole. So some of the things that we ultimately would like to do is also add the military flags to the park itself. The fountain itself, obviously, I feel we need to replace it and do it correctly. I don't know what the terms are, but in my mind, I'm looking at it the same way. We build a pool and get it done correctly. Besides, right now, we have like a fountain that's shooting inwards on a, I don't know, lead, not lead, but whatever that thing is going around it. We actually have a pool where it's shooting upwards, and get it done properly so we can maintain it properly and it's done right. Put foundation underneath it that's going to support it. I like to raise the eagle about a foot. Like I said, put flags, military flags to identify who we're supporting in that manner, and they will go behind the plaques of where they're at. Some of the ceramic, or not ceramic, yeah, the
The
plaques
military
and
plaques
the
were
wordings.
actually done by one company, and then they changed companies, or they changed the thickness of it. And we have some that were, I mean, I don't know if y'all been out there and looked at it. Some of them are actually white, and when you go to the next one, they're starting to fade and chip out the paint. It's like they didn't sandblast it deep enough, so it's not holding paint anymore. And then you go over and look at the other one, and they're a little bit thicker. So to me, military should be uniform. Everything should look the same. And that's something that, I mean, I'm kind of passionate about. I mean, I'm willing to spend my time to make sure everything gets done right. But it's just, talking about the flags and stuff like that, a lot of places where you see your veterans area, they have all the flags representative. And that part's unique since the fountain is dead center and we have 4 ways in. So we already have the Texas and US flag. So we have enough to do the branches all the way around it too.
Yeah, just something to think about. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one in here, but I am a veteran. I'm retired military, the whole ball of wax. I'm an American Legion member, VFW member, the whole ball of wax. But anyhow, I know that our Writers Club was involved in fixing the pump at one point in time. I'm actually part of the Mansfield American Legion 624, and I know they got involved with fixing the pump and everything. Well, here's where I'm going with it. Why don't we get an estimate on what it costs to actually do this right? Then one of the things we could do is we could go around to the different veterans groups like American Legions and other things like that. And in reality, what they may do, our group, it would not be, I don't want to say, it wouldn't be an unusual thing for us to make a fairly decent donation to help do that. The other thing that might end up happening here is, you know, you're talking about flags, you're talking about doing things right the military way. They would be very eager and willing to help with that. And then the other thing is, you know, whenever we get this thing done, what we might be able to do is have some sort of a celebration or whatever else and bring veterans here. And
Well, and that's the exact point. Our town center, obviously, we want to be a focal point of our city. And we have 3 things, in my opinion, that stand us apart from a lot. One, we have a 9/11 memorial. We have a sundial that's unique to this country, and we don't advertise it. We don't promote it. We don't do anything in that manner. That aspect of it's going to change, and we're going to start doing that. Last year, we had an event for our Veterans Memorial, and we're going to do that. We're going to come out and promote it and show it as a showcase that we're something we're proud of. It needs to look right, and it needs to be right, and we need to be proud of what we have. And that's the reason why I was bringing it here. We need to make these little things right. And I don't think our upkeep of the 9/11 memorial, or more importantly, at this point, the Veterans Memorial, those,
In, in the 9/11 memorial, in defense of that, that man that's sitting over there has worked his butt off tirelessly on that thing.
absolutely, and that's the reason why he's here today.
I would
We need to
also,
put pride into it.
I would also ask the city manager, would this not fall under the Parks Rehabilitation Plan that council is working on?
It could, there's a lot of different avenues that we can go. But it's also part of this whole town center, is an economic development portion of it. We promote the park, for economics, to bring the people here. And that's the reason why I'm bringing it to you. It is an attraction for our city. We don't have a whole lot here, but there's two things we do have, and that's the 9/11 memorial that we all should be proud of, and the veterans. And we shouldn't allow the veterans, memorial to be deteriorating in the fashion that it is. You can't even walk around it without going into water. It's constantly leaking. And that's not right. I just feel we need to have a little bit more pride than what we've been showing it in the past. And if that means we need to start over, my recommendation, and I hope, you guys allow me to move forward and see if I can get some quotes, to see what it'll take to make it right.
Well, why don't we, I mean, to your point, why don't we see if we can make it right? But the thing is the more organizations, there's a ton of veterans organizations around here. The more organizations we involve in this and everything else, it's good for them, it's good for us. Plus it, to your point, it puts Kennedale on the map.
Absolutely.
And, we could set up to the point where we do something every year. Because there's been places where I went to other cities around here because of like a 9/11 service or something of that nature. There's no reason it couldn't be here.
And we started that last year. So we had our first
So-
annual veterans, memorial.
Right, but I'm just, I mean, I know there's probably others here, but I can help with that if need be. 'Cause I know a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Sounds like we're all in support of it, whatever method we can come up with.
And one of the things also, it's not budgeted, for this budget. I honestly, I had no idea of what kind of funds we're even talking about. Obviously, once we have an idea of what we're talking about, it would be brought back to you guys, for consideration of what that expense is. I don't want you to think I'm going outside of that concept of it. But I do think it's gonna be a pretty good expense to do that. But I think it'll be worth it in the long run, and it's an attraction to our city and to our veterans as a whole.
I know you got pool contractors, put pools in everybody's yards around here. And as long as you keep watering them, they're not cracking too bad in this clay. And this clay does move, and it does crack. Thank goodness I got sand.
There are ways to stabilize play.
But we gotta be careful that we don't disturb, whatever we do, we're right next to the 9/11 memorial. We don't want to have to redo it too. We're
Well-
close enough to it. You don't want to disturb it too much.
Well, where I was going with it is I actually had to put a cooling tower down up for a mill expansion in Paris, Texas, Kimberly Clark. Among other things, I'm.
Can you please speak in the
engineer, I
mic?
Do all kinds of things. I'm sorry, I was gonna say, it was very much the same situation. It was expansive clay and everything else. The way this was designed and everything else, basically had very robust walls, had plenty of steel in it, and everything else, and it floats. Okay, it actually saved me quite a bit of money as opposed to putting piling and other things down in the ground and everything else. And to this day, that thing was put in 1991, doesn't leak, doesn't have a problem yet, but it was designed to, be a single unit where it would float. And expansive clay didn't matter, but it was designed for that purpose. That may be all that's needed here is because if you dig up that clay or you start putting pylons in the ground or everything else, it's going to get expensive. But if you had this robust where it, it's okay for it to shift just so it doesn't crack and
Right. I think a lot of the problem is this really wasn't even proposed to go in there when they were actually designing the park. This was kind of a last minute deal that they threw in there. And like I said, it sits on concrete, but there's also bricks and the bricks are sanded in. And then one side of it is actually holds water constantly. And when you look at the fountain itself, each piece is its own section. There's not a solid piece to actually keep the water in. So that would probably work if it was something solid to where it would float and work together. But what we have now is individual pieces and it's pie shaped in the center. So it's constantly just going to move. And I don't think there's any way that we could keep it from moving. But I mean, if it's not expensive, I'm willing to do anything.
well, the cooling tower I'm talking about is twice the size of this room. And it floated and it did just fine. But, in World War II, they made concrete battleships. They didn't deploy them, but they did make them.
Right. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you all for your feedback. Thank you.
All right, we will item 3, regular session, reports and announcements, updates from staff.
We had our Chamber of Commerce luncheon the last week. It went really well. Elizabeth Partridge, our librarian, our communications director, done a presentation of all of our, mainly what the library and what type of resources the library can deliver to our community as a whole. And if you're a business, obviously there's resources that you can go there. And Elizabeth is willing to walk you through that process of whatever that may be. So for instance, if you're having, you need help on taxes, there's a video, there's books, whatever thing that you're needing, there's a app, there's a video, something to be able to do that. Elizabeth shared all of her knowledge and all the resources that are available to business owners for the chamber luncheon. I think it went really well. We got a lot of good positive feedback on it. With the chamber as a whole, since my involvement, we're trying to revamp, restructure the chamber. And it seems that we're starting to get a little bit of traction with that idea and moving forward with it. So hopefully in the next month or two, you'll start seeing that. So just kind of stay tuned. I'd love to see you guys start showing up to the chamber luncheons or events as a whole. I think that's part of what this board is about, is for our economic development. So I love to start seeing you guys involved and being a part of it. If anything, you can get you a free lunch out of it. With that said, also come May the 18th, I think you guys got an email in reference to a banquet for all of our community leaders, which you are, being on the EDC board. We'll love to have you there. Obviously, you can bring your spouse or your friend or whoever, bring somebody with you. The idea behind this is that we can share the city's vision. We can share what our goals and accomplishments are. We want you guys to understand where we're going, and it takes all of us to be able to do that. So it's important, if you can make it, please be there. Like I said, we'll at least give you some dinner, show you a vision, show you a direction. And obviously we'll also, if you, whatever training, anything that you're needing to help you do a better job up here, and what the council is asking you to do, the council and myself are wanting to provide that training to you. And we want to be able to say thank you for serving. the city, the citizens and the council as a whole. And this is just one way we'll be able to do that. So if you haven't had an opportunity to respond back to the email, you can let me know, the mayor, Rayanne, just let some of us know and let us know how many will be in your party and we'll get you registered. But we truly look for you to be there.
Okay, thank you. Visitor and item B, visitor and citizen forum. None out there. Yeah, he's already spoke. Item C, items for individual consideration. One, approve the minutes for the March 28th, 2023 regular meeting. Any notes or changes need to be made?
We have an open item that we put on the table.
That is still tabled for right now.
Oh, okay, okay.
I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th.
Have a second? All in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Item 2, financial reports for the C or the EDC. We have, each of us should have a copy of our EDC financial reports for month ending February.
Yeah, can you go into the fund expenditures, operation expenditures went up by over 50%. Obviously, I'm assuming that's new personnel coming onto the city, but if I'm looking at it there, it went from 268 to 583. Can you walk me through what that increase is?
68, that's prior year. If you'll
That's correct. And then if you go over to current year, it shows 583 for the, what I assumed is the same time period.
That's a budget.
So if you'll keep going, that current month is indicating we spent 13,929 for just this period in February. So the year to date will be at
So let me back up then. The operation expenditures in the very first column of 268,000, what's that representing? That's the approved budget for 22.
yes, that's 21.
And so for the 22-23 budget, I would assume it goes from 268,000 to 583,000. Is that correct? For the budget?
Actual year, that's estimated, we have not closed the book for the 2022 year. So next month, actually, you'll start seeing the accurate numbers. The actuals are not complete. We can't close the book. The books are actually being closed this week. Once the book is closed, we're doing more active.
Makes sense.
Then obviously on the 23 budget, that's the approved. But it's pretty much the same for
The approved budget.
we were doing it month to month, but how our meetings are set, it doesn't give finance a chance to close the book for that month. So for instance, like for the council, sometimes our council meetings falls on like the 16th. Well, we can't close our book until the 15th. We have to make sure all of our billing is in and be able to close that month. So it doesn't give me an opportunity, one, to review the financials or go through and just look at it, or it doesn't give me the opportunity to share with the council as a whole. So what I started doing is being basically a month behind. So we're in April. So basically that's the reason why you get in the February report. Because I can't close March fast enough. I don't have enough time to close it before I have to present it to the council. So you're a week after council. So that will be a lot easier for me to do, but I can't do it in 1 or 2 days prior to a council. So now we're just operating at 60 days.
So in actuality, we're 2 months then, right?
Mhm.
Not a month. It's just 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
That's correct.
2 months.
So ultimately,
So the current month on this statement is April, is actually February, right?
that's correct. It is February. This is the close of February. So the last day of February, so all of February is counted for in these numbers. Only thing you do not see is March and the April, which obviously we're not through April yet. So you're 30 days behind. No, it starts October the 1st. So yeah, we're roughly 7 months in. Yeah. So if you look at the current year, the fiscal year 2023, you'll see where it says percent received expended year to date, YTD. If you'll go down there, it'll show you a percentage. That percentage is indicating where we're at in February. So in February, out of our operational expenditures, we have spent 23.2% of the budget. So with that, so you can look roughly, the numbers are roughly about 8% per month. So if we should be technically about 56% if it was up to date today. So roughly, if you look at the March, you should be hitting roughly at 50%. So if you look at those numbers, we're very well below.
So that
expenditure.
23.2% is of the approved budget or what?
Yes, that's the approved budget.
23%.
So if you'll look at the very top one, so when you're looking at it, under EDC fund, then it gives you the number. Right below it says EDC
Right.
fund revenues.
Mhm.
If you go back to that percentage, 32.3% of the revenues we have received. We have not received 100% of the revenue. That's indicating we haven't got all the sales tax. Sales tax run 2 months behind.
Okay.
So right now, we're actually seeing January's sales tax numbers.
3 months. Okay,
Yeah.
3 months.
There's my. Yeah, because we had to have an auditor to come in and do all the financials to close the books. Basically auditors coming in and checking our math for say, and making sure all the accounts are accounted for and they came out of the correct account. Like I said, that should be completed this week. But the audit itself will not be presented to the council until June. So you're not going to see that final number that you're looking at, that 268. That number will be accurate come June when I present the financials to you. That's correct.
So real quick, the debt service for last year was 135,000 and it looks like it was 0 for current month under full year 2023. Was something paid off or is it just simply a timing issue where that debt service isn't there?
Yeah, and maybe we just haven't paid a bond or that debt.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
hopefully my last question, the 56,124 that went out, what in current year? What is that?
56,000.
It's under approved budget for current year down just above net change. It looks,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's transferred out money. It's money, we could have been paying insurance, landscaping, things of that nature.
And so the EDC pays for that?
Hmm.
Okay.
For town center,
Oh, okay.
town center grounds.
Understood.
Yeah, and there's other EDC properties.
Right, that is true. We have to mow, we have to pay the city to mow our properties until we negotiate them, sell them, or whatever.
Thank you.
I'm getting better at it.
Any more questions on our financials?
I already got the update at the council meeting. I'm good. Second.
You have a second? Second, James, okay. Sorry, my ears are ringing. Oh, all in favor? It's up to you. All right, unanimous. Thank y'all. All right. And item 4 executive session is, okay, wait a minute, miss one? Oh, no, it is. You're right. I'm sorry. Item 3, discussion and approval of remodeling or lighting sign for the 34th time at the Welcome to Kennedale sign at the little road. It's the one that when you come into town, you'll see it on your left. It sits in that little bit of property owned by the city, and it keeps getting vandalized, and it needs to be very much updated. It doesn't look very good anymore.
It's supposed to.
It did. I only got one question. I know you're talking about electricity. Is it any possibility, or is it too high in theft if we did it solar?
Um,
Because I know we'd have to have a storage system locked into the ground or whatever, and then we'd have to have a solar array to charge it with.
well, what I was requesting, it's $1,650, and it's to replace all the electrical, the lighting, everything. So.
And make the letters all look nice
And
again.
yes, and it actually, the lighting will be behind the letters. So it's not gonna be in the ground pointing at it anymore. It's actually behind the lettering to eliminate it that way.
Sort
And
of.
this is our only actual Welcome to Kennedale sign that's left.
That's correct
Yeah.
for now.
Kids.
Right now, it's just
Everybody likes
spotted.
letters.
I mean, right now, we're just looking at everything appears to looks good. Obviously, it could be clean. Don't get me wrong on that. But this here is just to replace all the electrical conduit, everything going to the monument itself, and to put new lights. It'll stop in a minute, literally 1 minute. And to put new lights on it that's not underground and it's shining on it, it's actually on the letters itself. So whenever you look at it, it's gonna be more of a glow than it is beams of light.
And your estimate is? Again, how much was it?
$1,650, I believe, $1,650.
Does not sound too bad. Sounds pretty good. But well, it's basically, that sign is ours and our responsibility. We actually had another one, but a car took it out. And then it wasn't legal anyway, so it never got rebuilt. It's set between McDonald's and QT on that little grass in the median. And the car came across and took it smooth out, and come to find out it was a traffic hazard anyway, because it blinded people, couldn't see around it correctly or something. But anyway, that's their only one, and I think we need to maintain it and keep it up.
Can we replace the one that was down here by the QT? Because that's a great place of some
Probably
kind.
not, because especially not now with the highway construction.
It will be replaced. I've been in talks with TxDOT and obviously they're going through and rebuilding that whole concept. In our agreements, I've asked them to put that monument back, and they have agreed to do so. The state's gonna pay for it.
And then they'll give it back to us to maintain it.
Yeah. But it's not gonna be in the same location.
It'll be moved back a little bit.
Actually, it's probably gonna be more on this service road.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh, okay. The
Yeah.
new service road coming in.
Yeah, and the reasoning why that median is pretty much going away, it'll be there, but it's only gonna be like 2 feet wide. So obviously we don't want, to be there, but you'll see the sign as they exit, coming off the freeway and the service road as a whole. Mhm. Yeah, and be lit as well.
Have a motion to approve. Second. All right, we have a motion to approve repair of the welcome to Kennedale sign for $1,650. All in favor? Unanimous, thank y'all. Now that concludes all of our items for individual consideration at this time. Do we have, we need to go into executive session? So no executive sessions needed. Do we have a motion to go home?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor? All right, thank y'all for showing up. Told you, I made